Morning.
Good morning.
Warren Fiscal Court, special call meeting for the purpose of hearing an appeal and arguments on the record by the attorneys is now called to order, January 19th, 2022, 8 a.m. Please call the roll.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Here.
Esquire Lawrence.
Here.
Esquire Cummings.
Here. Ma'am.
Okay. Now, just to explain a little bit first, the procedures on this. We will give each attorney 10 minutes to make the argument on the record. Everyone has a copy of the transcript or they've viewed the video. So they may have questions of you all after both attorneys have spoken and made their case. Is that satisfactory with both of you gentlemen? Yes. So we'll start with you, Mr. Baker.
Judge Buchanan, members of the Fiscal Court, good morning, Mr. Broderick. May it please the Court, thank you for the opportunity to be heard on this. This is an issue that is hugely important for lots of folks, to include all the folks who live out on the Twin Bridges and in that neighborhood, and I know it's important for Mr. Broderick's client too. So we're grateful to be heard on this. Yesterday, I was making an argument in the Kentucky Court of Appeals up in Frankfort, and lots of times I make arguments to judges and to juries, and all that is to say, I always try to remember who my audience is. This morning, it's the Warren Fiscal Court, elected officials, who by definition are public servants. And whether you're from a public servant from a small town or a U.S. senator, you're a public servant. And that sort of begs the question in this case, how is the public going to be served by this development? Is this development progress, or more specifically, is it the kind of progress that we want or need? And on behalf of Joe Jean Scott and all these other folks who are here today, I respectfully submit that it's not. The answer is no. It will be in Mr. Patel's interest to make this development, but other than that, the public is not being served. As to the issue of compatibility, if you're standing out on Twin Bridges Road and looking at the Farley house, to the north is Joe Jean Scott's farm. Behind the Farley house is Joe Jean Scott's farm. To the south is the Collett Bridge community, which is a charming country lane of kind of cool, neat little houses on both sides of a meandering country lane. And across the road is a very well done development called September Lakes. And this development proposes to put 50 some odd houses on 20 acres right in the middle of that. And you can't even argue with a straight face that is compatible. You just can't. I heard one of the neighbors say that if this development goes through, you'll be able to pass sugar to your neighbor from house to house without any of them leaving. It's true, there'll be 56 houses right on top of each other, crammed into 20 acres. And there is no way that anyone can argue that this is compatible. by way of density and by way of character. I think another important point is that somebody, somewhere, spent a lot of time and a lot of energy on what's known as the Scottsville Road Corridor Study. It was done in about 2015. It's comprehensive, it is thorough, it's exhaustive, and I got to tell you, until this case came along, I was not aware of its existence. But when you get toward the end, at section 10, there are recommendations for action by the City County Planning Commission. The first primary recommendation, the very first one, is a requirement that all development visible from Scottsville Road be designed in such a way to appear to face Scottsville Road, regardless of the location of the driveway access and parking. This development is not compatible, it does not conform to, it does not and cannot comply with that requirement. It is a requirement that all development visible from Scottsville Road be designed in such a way to appear to face Scottsville Road, regardless of the location of the driveway, access, and parking. And this development does not, cannot, and will not meet that requirement. At the Planning Commission hearing, there was a suggestion that, well, we'll just fix that, we'll just plant a row of trees along Twin Bridges Road. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. The Farley house sits way up on a hill and looks out over the Twin Bridges Road, and you can't plant enough trees and tall enough trees to ever make that agricultural that boundary appear to pass muster. So by way of compatibility, density, and character, and being in violation of the Scottsville Road Corridor Study, we submit that this development and this requested rezoning should not pass. My clients have also expressed to the Planning Commission, and we submit to you, that there are significant geological concerns. And those concerns are also borne out in the Scottsville Road Corridor Study. Admittedly, I'm not a geologist. Don't claim to be, but at Exhibit 3 of the Scottsville Road Corridor Study, there is a diagram for sinkhole and cave locations. And this particular land is riddled with them, sinkholes and caves. And of course, the Scotts property is bounded by the Drakes Creek, and there are lots of geological concerns going forward as you consider this. I think another very valid concern is traffic. We've got 56 houses, as many as 2 cars per house. That's 112 cars in 21 acres, all coming and going through the same location, not only into this proposed development, but everyone will have to turn right onto Twin Bridges Road, and then out onto Scottsville Road, where I think you have to turn right again and then go away from town, and at some point turn around and come back. Again, this is not the kind of progress that this court should put its stamp of approval on. It creates nothing but a bottleneck, and it's not the kind of progress that we need. Judge Buchanan, members of the Fiscal Court, we're asking that you not approve this requested zone change. The folks in September Lakes don't want it. The Scotts don't want it. The folks on Collett Bridge Road don't want it. It's not in conformance with the Planning Commission's requirements and recommendations. It's incompatible. It's going to create traffic problems, potential geological problems, and we're asking that this requested zone change be denied. I may be stepping over the line here, and if I am, you just call me out on it. I won't be upset. Ms. Scott would like to address the court if she can. I understand.
I don't think we can do that. We want to keep this record clean to,
I understand.
chances are it's going to be appealed either way, so.
Can't hit a pitch unless you take a swing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Broderick?
Thank you very much, Judge Buchanan, members of the Fiscal Court. It's always nice to be here. One of the things that y'all did a long time ago, your predecessors did a long time ago, very appropriately, is we adopted planning and zoning back in the 50s in Warren County. You delegated appropriately the authority to make recommendations to the Fiscal Court on matters that are in the county. To members that you had appointed to planning and zoning. In fact, just recently and very appropriately, you changed the configuration where Warren County, if it's a Warren County project, those people that are Warren County people on the Fiscal Court get to vote on it, and we're not having somebody who doesn't have an interest in it be involved. It's two things come to mind when we talk about this application. And again, I compliment the court for this. Scottsville Road in my lifetime has changed dramatically. It went from a sleepy, very small one lane going to Scottsville and one lane coming back to Bowling Green to now what is a very, very nice thoroughfare with 4 lanes with turning lanes. And its creation certainly generated growth. Fillmore Park is one of the nicest facilities that you can see in Warren County. More importantly, this body financed sewer for the area, and at great expense, and also at great need. The sewer does one thing. From an environmental point of view, from an ecological point of view, when you have the sewer and people build houses, they're going to be in the sewer system. They're not going to have septic tanks. I find it interesting that, and y'all have seen the record, that they make some suggestion about ecological or geological findings. None of that was presented by way of any expert testimony to suggest anything was inappropriate. In fact, the members of the Planning and Zoning pointed out that engineering will take care of that. We're always going to have sinkholes in Warren County. That's going to happen. We're on a karst topography, and that may limit the size of housing. I want to talk to you about that now, about this zone change. This is 21.42 acres, not 20, it's 21.42. It has green space with it. We propose to put 56 single-family residences there. It is a low-density area. Density for homes can be low, moderate, or high. Believe it or not, the low density goes from 0 to 4.5 units per acre. Our application is just a little less than 2.6. It's in the median of this. Planning and zoning heard this. Their recommendations from the staff to the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission were this. This is compatible with the comprehensive plan. I waited for Mr. Baker to say something about the comprehensive plan because the plan foresaw, again, something that y'all appointed people to do and look at and spend a lot of time on, foresaw that there would be growth in this area. And they suggested that it be low density. They suggested that it be single-family residential. Well, guess what? That's what's happened. I'm going to give you an idea, and I think something that's important when you take this consideration. This is clearly compatible. All you have to do is drive out and look across the street and see all the homes that are over by Split Tree Barbecue that have been built once the sewer came in. The density is different there. There's a reason for it. The homes before that, the sewer wasn't there. Since the sewer's come in, you have developed that side of Warren County immensely because it was needed. I don't need to tell you we have a number of homes that are needed here. We've had a tragedy here and lost 1,000 homes. We're down on the number of homes. This is 56 homes. These are 1,800 square feet, brick, stone, mortarboard, concrete mortarboard, no vinyl, 2-car garages. This is a very, very nice development. It is self-contained, and let me tell you what that means. We are developing our own streets with inside. There's only going to be one access in and one access out. We're not touching College Bridge Road. There's always an argument. I don't like stub streets. Ben Peterson will tell you have to have stub streets. They spend a great deal of time at planning and zoning saying we don't want a stub street. Quite frankly, we don't want a stub street. We have no intentions of connecting to College Bridge Road. So they are not affected. The Kentucky Department of Transportation or Public Works has approved any transportation issues about it. Planning and zoning told the applicants there that night, you all are all in compliance with traffic. Traffic is not a problem, and it's not a consideration because it's been resolved by those authorities that look into it. We have to do that before we make an application. Put it further in perspective about what I'm talking about, the same night that this was heard by planning and zoning, the next hearing was a mile up the road. It was 161 acres, and they're putting, it's 61 acres, and they're putting 157 single-family houses on it. I will tell you that this body has already heard that, and on December 17th, you had your second reading and approved a mile up the road, 157 single-family houses. By the way, no complaints from anybody there. I think everybody has a right to be heard about things, but this is an issue, and I encourage you, if Ben is here, Hamp Moore is here, to read what they said about this project. This project is compliant with the comprehensive plan. There's no exception from that. This is a low-density residential area. It's the medium ground of low density. It is a good development in terms of the type of housing. There was no complaint about the type of housing. There was no complaint about the configuration of us being self-contained and not getting in the College Bridge Road or interfering with Mrs. Scott's access in any way. Obviously, when you have a lot of people that don't want change about things, it creates problems. It's another situation of kind of, well, I don't want this in my backyard. We know we need it in Warren County. And I simply say to you that your Planning and Zoning Commission made a good recommendation to you and that this is in compliant in every way. Clearly, it is compatible. These are not apartments. These are not zero-based lot lines. This is a development that probably we won't get 56 houses in. It will probably be somewhere between 50 and 56, depending on what the engineers ultimately end up saying. But that's the amount that we chose. We have green space, we have curbs, and buffers to create at least what people were concerned about and said, well, I don't want to look at this and I don't want to look at that. That's why we spent a lot of time and money in designing this. Quite frankly, the only criticism that you hear today is, well, there's a traffic problem. I'll tell you there's not a traffic problem. That's out of the way. Is it compatible? I know y'all have seen the film or have seen the transcript of what took place. Clearly, you don't live in a vacuum. You can drive out Scottsville Road and see what's happened out there. It's single-family development. This is a good project. Quite frankly, it may be one of the best projects I've ever dealt with because there are no flaws with it. they put some extra things in this development that I really had not seen before. I simply say to you that you had a recommending body that heard this, and I will tell you there were some negative votes there, but there were, Mr. Baker and Ms. Scott have had a lot of people at the hearings. It's never fun to have a large group of people that want to disagree with what you say, but that's why we have a democracy. But at this point, y'all have established rules and regulations about how we run planning and zoning, how we're going to develop Warren County. If you ask some people in the development that we are talking about here, they'd rather us not have sewer. So I'm simply saying to you that when you ask planning and zoning about it, when you read what planning and zoning says, is that this zone change is compliant with each and every allegation that they go through to make sure it is a good project. The only issue that they said that planning and zoning need to consider because it complied with everything else is compatibility. And I suggest to you that single-family residential property in this area is certainly compatible with the development out Scottsville Road, considering you're going to have down the road another 157 houses. Judge Buchanan, magistrates, I ask you to uphold your planning and zoning commission in this matter. Thank you.
Y'all are pretty doggone good about keeping right to your 10 minutes, both of you. Thank you. In fact, use up just a little bit. I can figure out how to turn this thing off. Here we go. Next, do I have any questions from the fiscal court members? Yes.
I'd like to ask a question, but I'd like to ask it of Hamp Moore, if you wouldn't mind.
Good morning, Squire Gordon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate both parties involved, and we actually do appreciate the public's input. We were under the impression, or at least we had some sense, that there was some negotiations that were going on. And obviously, we're hoping that at some point there would be people seeing things the same type of way. So are you aware of any concessions that were made or any kind of negotiations that were made between the parties?
Mr. Corman, I'm aware that there were considerable negotiations between Mr. Baker and Mr. Broderick, and although I did not participate in those discussions, I've heard them discuss those issues. It had to do with whether the Farley property would be purchased by Ms. Scott. It had to do with a willingness to reduce the number of houses in this development. There were concessions made, I'm told, on both sides, but those concessions weren't sufficient to reach an agreement.
And this development plan, does this density match the density in that area?
The Planning Commission recommendation was that it was compatible with the development in that area. As you've heard this morning, the comprehensive plan says that new development needs to be compatible. The comprehensive plan in its future land use map says that development in this area should be first single family, and two, it should be low density. And according to the comprehensive plan, this development, as the Planning Commission concluded, was consistent with both of those factors.
Any other questions, Mr. Gorman? Mr. Payne?
I have
Yes.
a question.
Okay.
Is there any way that we would know the numbers of what was negotiated, what was turned down?
I'll be glad to tell you, Mr. Payne, I have no problem at all. I talked with Mr. Baker. The negotiation was this, that the number they gave us that was only acceptable to them was 18 houses on 21.42 acres. Obviously, we made an offer to reduce our number. It was not accepted. I will tell you, we went down to 48.
What was that offer?
48. We went down to 48.
48?
Yes, sir, from
Okay.
56. And quite frankly, if we weren't here, we could have built 21 houses
I understand.
on this, because it would be an acre each and there wouldn't be any issue to it. The problem with that is we wouldn't be on sewer. That's not a sound thing to do. That's why the sewer's out there, so we can have housing that is affordable. You know, not everybody can own an acre tract of land or larger. So that was the negotiation. We offered to buy Ms. Scott's property. They refused. They did yesterday, or perhaps I've lost my days, maybe the day before. They suggested, well, we'll buy you. Quite frankly, there is so much investment in this property at this point in time, that's not feasible with all the engineering that we've done with things we've done to make this a compatible situation in the neighborhood.
Ben, I have a question for you, Ben.
Mr. Payne, before you do that, I do want to clarify. Mr. Scott called me yesterday. Mr. Baker, I don't even know if you know this. You and I talked about me speaking to Mr. Scott, Steve Scott, who's here, who's present. And he had me offer, just so we're all clear, he had me offer to Mr. Broderick, and Mr. Broderick will remember this, for on the 21 acres to have a 2-acre green space to close and give the Scott family the Collett Bridge unimproved right-of-way, to do a screen around the entire property so they would not have to look at the garages. And with the remaining 19 acres from the 21 acres to have 1/2 acre lots. It would not be 38 houses though, because as Mr. Scott pointed out to me when I said 19 acres would be 38 houses, he said no because of the drainage, which has not been determined yet, because I called Mr. Peterson and I said, how many can they fit on there? And he said, well, I don't know because drainage comes next. So they didn't know. So a number, as far as a number of houses, was not presented to Mr. Broderick yesterday. Is that accurate, Mr. Scott?
Mostly. The only thing that I would say that I wanted to press upon you was, as you pointed out to me, we don't know how much drainage is going to take out of the development. Mr. Broderick has initiated that it's going to be somewhere between 50 and 56 houses, so we could be 0 to 6 houses potentially. Yeah. So 38 is what we were anticipating with 2 acres of green space. And if that green space was 2 acres or a little less because of the drainage, then 38 would have been.
But I want to be very clear. You specifically told me not to tell him that number, and I did not.
Correct. 1/2 acres
okay.
we feel would be
Okay.
compatible with the neighborhood.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. I never gave Mr. Broderick that number, so I don't. But I want to be clear, that's exactly what happened yesterday. Okay, sorry.
Yes. This development is, if they're within a certain length of sewer, do they have to go sewer?
Yes, sir. So,
Is this development within that length?
yes,
Okay,
2,000
so
feet's the number.
The septic tank thing is not even an issue.
That is correct. And just to
Okay.
clarify an earlier statement, the only thing that would, without rezoning, would be 5-acre lots since it's zoned agriculture. So it'd be 5, and there's existing 5 lots now, so.
Thank you.
Ben, I have a question while you're up there.
Yes, sir.
There was mention in Mr. Baker's opening statement about the Scottsville Road corridor study. Is that part of record within the planning and zoning comprehensive plan? Is that part, I mean, was that just a study that was done, or was that actually incorporated into the comprehensive plan?
Both. The study was done as a corridor study where we looked at the Planning Commission looked at the whole area and then that is effectively looked at as additional policies to the comprehensive plan, and that's why it's added in the staff report. So
Okay.
yes, effectively yes.
So within that question, and if it states, according to Mr. Baker, that such on front Scottsville Road, how does that then come to fit within an approval process, a recommendation from you all that was okay to do it the way it's been presented?
Sure. So the requirement is that any homes or development should be oriented to face Scottsville Road, as you stated, or be buffered. And so this particular development proposed a landscape buffer to try to satisfy that policy. And again, it's a policy and not a requirement such as the sewer. So that was one of the considerations by the Planning Commission.
And I know you're not a geologist either, neither am I, but obviously it would make sense that having property with sewer was a whole lot more ecological and geological, smart to have something going to a sewer system than just into the groundwater. Would that be a safe assumption to make?
Yes.
Okay.
But you may or may not recall that Fiscal Court paid for the sewer going out there for that very reason, so that it would be more environmentally friendly, and that the car, taking into account the karst topography out there, well, everywhere throughout the county. We've been trying to take sewer out and make it available to every new development, which at the same time allows you to reduce the lot sizes, and it also allows you to keep from eating up valuable farmlands quite so quickly as you would if you were in 5-acre lots at a time.
Okay. All right, I think that's all my questions. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the? Okay.
I'll have one more for our either
Yes,
Mr. Baker or Mr. Broderick, either one. We've heard some discussion about negotiations and obviously came to an impasse that neither side would be willing to accept, I guess, either side's proposal on it. Just want to make sure one last time before we get ready to have a vote here that is, y'all have exhausted all those avenues to work it out amongst the two parties versus putting it back here on fiscal court. Just want to make sure all those avenues have been exhausted and there is no room for a negotiation or an acceptable level before, because once we vote, it's going to be, you can't go back and renegotiate after the fact. I just want to make sure that both parties are completely comfortable with their positions at this particular time.
I'll be glad to answer. I mean, I'm always available for negotiations. Unfortunately, since before Christmas, the only figure I ever got was 18 lots. I was unaware of this other proposal. The problem we have is the connection to the sewer, which we're glad is there, is expensive. And that's what drives the cost of in this is the sewer, which is good because it is environmentally sound, ecologically sound. So I think we've done all we can do. We like I said, we offered to buy Ms. Scott's property. That was another option because that's where the vocal dynamic of this is all coming from Ms. Scott.
Okay.
There were offers to purchase on both sides.
And neither side could come to any kind of a financial decision with that.
Ms. Scott is unwilling to sell. Mr. Patel is unwilling to sell.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the fiscal court members?
Judge, I'd like to make a motion that the fiscal court follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission made October 21st, 2021, docket number 2021-58-C-CO. My motion is based upon the hearing conducted by the Planning Commission on October the 21st, 2021. in its conclusion that this application is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second. That's Squire Gorman. Any further discussion or questions?
Let me say this. This has been a very tough decision for me, and I hope that you folks will respect my vote.
Thank you. Okay, we have motion, second. Any other questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Esquire Young,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence, Esquire Cummings.
No, ma'am.
Okay. The motion passes, and the motion to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation passes. The next item on the agenda is to approve the second and final reading of Ordinance 2203, rezoning property located at 0 and 8039 Twin Bridges Road from agriculture to residential, single-family residential containing approximately 21.42 plus or minus acres and presently owned by Twin Bridges Holdings LLC of Narendrakumar Patel as the owner.
Motion.
Okay, motion by Squire Young. Second,
Second.
Squire Gorman. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Young,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne,
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence, Esquire Cummings.
No, ma'am.
Okay, motion passes. This being a special call meeting, we can't take up any other actions today. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Cummings.